Welcome back to Moving Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. It's the podcast where we watch The Muppets Take Manhattan 2 minutes at a time and talk about it a lot. I'm your host, Anthony Strand.
And I'm your other host, Ryan Roe.
And today we have a very special guest. She was with us for the Muppet movie. She was with us for the Great Muppet Caper. And she's back with us again. Special guest, who are you?
Hi, I am Staci Rosen. And
the person who wrote our theme music.
Yeah, isn't it kind of creepy that everyone just heard the theme song that I actually haven't written yet? It's kind of
I was going to
bizarre.
say you wrote the theme song for the first season and the second season, and also for this season, which I'm sure is a fantastic song, although we have not heard it yet.
No, but everyone else has.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that it is a riff on Gonna Always Love You, because I haven't heard it yet.
That's a good guess. It's actually not a riff on that. We'll see if by the time you hear it, everybody else, including yourselves, can tell what I'm riffing on.
Sure. I will sound like a fool. Well,
it was a good guess.
Anyways, always a thrill to have you back, Staci.
Thanks for having me.
And today we are talking about minutes 3 and 4 of The Muppets Take Manhattan. In these minutes, Kermit and the gang perform Together Again, the rousing finale of their Danhurst College musical. And they are greeted by rapturous applause. So, first of all, we are listening to... and what a great cutoff for these minutes that, like, we come in right when the lyrics start here.
Yeah,
like,
that worked out so well.
It's really perfect.
Yeah, within about 3 seconds of the start of this clip, Kermit is singing the beginning of Together Again, written, of course, by Jeff Moss, who wrote all the songs for this movie. So, Staci, I actually wanted to start out by asking you, I know you're a huge Jeff Moss fan. Do you want to talk about why you love Jeff Moss so much?
Sure. Well, I love Joe Raposo, and I love all the other composers that have worked on Sesame Street, but something about Jeff Moss's music has always sort of felt theatrical to me, and I'm a huge theater fan. I feel that in this show, of course, and then in Sesame Street, I just feel like a lot of his songs just sound like a big number where you would have your jazz hands out.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's actually my love for theater that makes me such a huge fan of this particular movie. I know that you like to ask people about like how they rank the movies, but if I could, at this juncture, just talk about the fact that my whole love for the Muppets as a franchise comes from this movie. This was the movie I rented over and over again as a child. We didn't own a lot of movies, but we probably should have, considering how much we spent in rentals of the same movies. But
so you rented this enough times that you could have just bought the VHS tape.
Yeah, and not only do I know every word, but like I know the exact intonation of the words. And,
sure.
You know, I think people have heard before, probably on this podcast, that Ryan and I, we're married, and we met because of the Muppets. However, when I searched Muppets into that OkCupid search box, I had actually never seen the Muppet movie or the Great Muppet Caper. So
crazy.
Most of my love from the Muppets really just stemmed from this movie. I had also seen episodes of The Muppet Show, and I'd seen Christmas Carol, and I actually saw Treasure Island in the theater just that one time I saw it. But yeah, it really came from this because it merges so many things that I love. New York, which I've been in love with since I was 5, and Broadway musical theater, which I've also been in love with since I was 5. So to then have these, amazing characters do a film all about that, it was just...
This is right in your wheelhouse.
It was right in my wheelhouse.
And as I was preparing clips for this season, I discovered that you actually know the dialogue from this movie better than I do.
I'm sure that's true. You probably don't know this, Anthony, and I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I've tried to squeeze you out of this podcast multiple times. I've said to Ryan, why don't you just give Anthony a break and I can be your co-host for this particular movie? But no, he's been loyal to you, just so you know.
I'd listen to it. Like I'm not opposed to that idea.
It was impossible for me to select which ones I wanted to do. So eventually I just said, you know what? I wrote the theme song. I want to be on the first episode that you have guests for. So
awesome. I love that. I love that. So let's get actually into it. We start with the Muppets singing Together Again, which is, like, I guess it's a song about the characters in the musical Manhattan Melodies reuniting at the end of the show or something. Like, in universe, we're supposed to assume that's what it's about, right?
Yes.
But it's not about that. It is about the Muppets are back, friends. Like, on this podcast, we've talked about Fantastic Miss Piggy Show and Rocky Mountain Holiday recently. Those are the only two things the Muppets did in between The Great Muppet Caper and this. Like, in between the Muppet movie and The Great Muppet Caper, they made 48 episodes of The Muppet Show. They were on TV every week.
Yeah.
And in between these two movies, they did 2 mediocre to bad specials.
And what was how many years between the two
3
movies?
years. 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. 81 to 84. So it's like, in 82 and 83 each, they did one special. But it's like, the Muppets haven't been a fixture on TV, like in popular culture, like they were just a few years earlier. So
right, and now the Muppets themselves are together again. The Muppets and all the performers are getting together again to work on this movie, and the Muppets and their audience are together again.
Right. So the first Muppet that we see is Kermit, which I guess is appropriate. He's our hero, right? He's Jim Henson himself. And then the second and third Muppets that we see in order are Piggy and Fozzie. So both Frank Oz, right? Like, we're seeing these introductions of like the big three, Jim and Frank. And then after that, Rowlf, Scooter, Gonzo, and Camilla all at the same time, because who cares? Like, but any thoughts about like what members of the gang we see here?
I actually wrote in my notes, I said Camilla really feels like part of the gang here, and it made me wonder, I'm not as versed in the other movies. Is Camilla like one of the main? I know she doesn't say much, but is she just so prominently with all the characters all the time like that? She
is more so in the Muppet movie where she like she and Gonzo are introduced together,
Okay.
Driving the plumbing truck, like, the first time we see Gonzo, he's talking to Camilla.
She wasn't so much of a presence in the Great Muppet Caper.
Yeah, Great Muppet Caper, she's just like at the hotel with, she's no more or less of a presence than like the newsman,
right,
or
she's
something.
Just one of the chickens.
Right.
I like this selection of characters. It's also interesting that the conceit of the movie is they're all in college together. They're all college seniors graduating at the same time, because somehow, I guess mostly Rowlf seems older than the others.
Yeah, Rowlf's in his 40s for sure.
Right, like he's always in his 40s.
Right.
So it seems funny that he's graduating college at the same time as Scooter, who seems like
he's like a teen.
Right, or like just perpetually college age, maybe.
But didn't you guys have both of those characters in like your college experience? There's that one dude who just,
yeah, that's true.
Like
that's true.
They've lived a lot of life already, and then
that's true.
You have those.
I can picture that guy.
Really enthusiastic freshmen too.
The guy wore a hat.
Well, like. Now that you say that, like, specific, you guys know the TV show Undeclared?
I know of it.
Yeah, well, like, Jay Baruchel on that show is Scooter, and Seth Rogen is Rowlf. So, there you go.
There you go.
Like, it's right there.
That might have been the inspiration for that show.
It would not surprise me, actually. But, so then, and all of these Muppets that we've seen so far are wearing these, like, checkered, like, pastel-colored suits.
I love those costumes. Do we know who did the
yeah.
costumes? Did you already go over it when you went through the names?
We didn't, because it was not in the opening credits.
Okay. I'd love to find out at the end of this podcast series about the costumer. I love those costumes.
Did Callista Hendrickson work on this movie?
Yeah, you know what? Let's pause. Let's pretend that we all know.
Yeah.
Let's look it up. Costume design by Karen Roston, Callista Hendrickson, so yes, and Polly Smith, who had worked on The Muppet Show.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so between the three of them, one of them, or possibly all of them, collaborated on designing these.
I wonder if they still exist somewhere.
Yeah, I don't... Are you saying that because you want to modify and to wear them?
No, No, but I would love to see them in like a traveling Henson exhibit.
Yeah, that would
on
rule.
display at MoMI.
This feels like something, that I can't imagine they would have just thrown all of these away. So, yeah, it's one of those. I think I've already said this on the season, but I hope that these are in a box at the Center for Puppetry Arts somewhere.
Yeah,
and you hope that you get to unbox them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the costumes look great. I think we got to talk up front. How do we feel about Piggy's hair?
Yes, I was wondering if this
is,
would
of
come
course,
up
the movie
now,
where Piggy has a perm. She has that like curly perm.
Well, I have to tell
She has
you
a
that
very 80s.
right now, Ryan and I are watching the FX series The Americans, which takes place in the 80s. We're just getting to watching it now. And my biggest pet peeve is that nobody has 80s hairstyles. Kerry Russell just has very modern, straight, wavy hair, and
she has very stylish 2013 hair.
Yeah, like they're making no effort to make it look like the 80s at all. So I actually find Piggy's perm refreshing and of the time.
You would like The Americans better if Kerry Russell looked like Miss Piggy in this movie.
Basically, yeah, or maybe at least like Felicity.
I would actually like The Americans better if Stan was played by Rowlf. So.
Oh,
there you
yeah.
Go. There's your 40-something-year-old guy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wait, now I'm rethinking the entire series with Muppets.
Uh-huh.
Let's table that.
Yeah.
Sure,
we'll get back to that later.
We'll do a Tough Pigs article about it later.
Well, I mean, I feel like Agent Gad has to be Sam the Eagle, but
I can see that.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, it feels like there was an effort to make the New York of this movie seem kind of timeless. There are things that creep in, like certain fashions that people are wearing, but for the most part, it does feel like this could have taken place in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. So to have the perm look so of the era does sort of date it. And also something about that Piggy hair, it looks white to me.
Yeah, it's
bleach. It's bleach blonde, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely lighter than her usual look.
I don't want to spoil the rest of the movie, Ryan, but this is definitely not the only part that dates it. If you think of a certain roller skater and the clothes that they're wearing.
You're right. That's true. Right, that's true.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
So after we see all of those Muppets that we talked about, Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, Rowlf, Scooter, Gonzo, and Camilla, the only other Muppets introduced in this scene are the Electric Mayhem, who are the orchestra, who are all in the pit. And
apparently they're also all graduating
seniors. They're all graduating seniors, as I think we'll find out in the next clip that Animal is, right? Like, we don't see that here. But Lips is notably absent.
I was just about to ask about Lips.
Yeah, because Lips
right.
is like with the Mayhem the entire time in Great Muppet Caper. He doesn't say much or do much because he's not a character, but he's like part of the gang. And here, it feels like they're going back to basics with the Mayhem. It feels like Jim or Frank or someone made the decision that nobody cares about Lips, and the Electric Mayhem should be like the classic band from the TV show.
Which is interesting, though, because Steve Whitmire plays two prominent characters in this. So it seems it's kind of funny that they wouldn't include his member of the Electric Mayhem.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't think it's a slight on Steve, who, obviously Rizzo's a huge part of this. Who he's very much like still the rising star of the Muppets. But I wonder if they didn't decide that Lips was kind of a misfire.
Maybe, but then he comes back later. I'm actually curious now. When was the next time we saw Lips?
He's in Muppet Family Christmas.
But does Lips talk at all in any of the productions?
He talks on the 2015 TV show sometimes. That's like
because
the only time.
I have to imagine that they definitely... I mean, if they had Lips in the band, then Lips would have been part of the whole adventure of the movie. And then it kind of takes away, I think, from like Zoot's sort of like quietness and dazed. Zoot just only says what he has to say, doesn't talk a lot.
Right. Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, he does. There is some overlap there.
Yeah.
They just never figured Lips out as a character. Like,
Sounds about right.
And of course, as our friend Quinn Rollins has said on this very podcast, the puppet doesn't have any lips, so it's a strange, strange choice. Like,
I seem to recall Steve Whitmire saying in an interview, it was either for the Muppets or Muppets Most Wanted, or it might have been for the ABC series. But he said that the lips had one line of dialogue in one of those projects, and it was like, for the first time, he figured out, like, oh, here's something. Like, this could be Lips's character. After all those years, it took him that long to get a line of dialogue that made him think, oh, wait, here's a personality for Lips.
Yeah, that's wild. 35 years or whatever after that puppet was built.
Something like that. Hey, listeners, this is Ryan coming to you from slightly in the future with a point of clarification. I did a little bit more research that I should have done in the first place, and it turns out it was actually an interview with Dave Goelz with the Muppet Mindset in 2013, where he talked about Steve Whitmire coming to new realizations about Lips's character. Dave Goelz told our friends at Muppet Mindset, Steve Whitmire has been frustrated that for 30 years he hasn't really found a character hook for Lips the trumpet player. Just last winter he had to say the line, but we don't have any instruments. In a gravelly voice, Steve came out with, but we don't got no instruments. And the character was born after 30-odd years in labor. I love Lips, and I am waiting raptly for his next line. So that's what I was thinking of. By the way, Muppet Wiki also notes that there are actually no productions where Lips says that line. So that's interesting too. But 2013, so that was a couple years before this series. So there you go. And now returning you to your regularly scheduled podcast where Anthony is about to say, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Can we talk about Animal in the song for a second?
Sure, of course.
Every time I sing the song to myself, I always go, together again. Every single time. Like, that's part of it to me. But do you think that was just a total ad-lib in the recording studio for Frank Oz?
Yeah, it probably feels like it.
It's great.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What an It's like, I think it's an even better, for anyone who hadn't seen the other movies, which was me, I think that's an even better introduction to who Animal is than what we see. Is it this clip or the next clip?
Next one.
When we see him. Okay, so then what we see in the next clip, I think you learn everything you need to know in that moment.
Right. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, he's a wild and crazy
guy. I would definitely agree with that. So one thing that surprised me watching this clip is how short this song is once the lyrics start. Like, the song ends at 1 minute and 13 seconds into this 2-minute clip. So that's how long they're actually singing.
Yeah, they get in and out.
Right.
There's quickly. No second verse.
Right.
Depending on how you choose to deconstruct the song, yeah, it's just a verse and a chorus, and that's it.
We haven't really talked about the lyrics, but I like the song. I like the song thematically. I feel like this should maybe be a little bit more recognized in the canon of Muppet songs.
I think it's wild to suggest that it isn't, considering that it's the closing number of a different movie 30 years later.
No, it's true. It's true. But just the fact that we always hear Rainbow Connection, and we've had the Electric Mayhem playing Can You Picture That in a few different appearances.
And one of their two newest feature films ends with them singing this.
No, it's true.
Wait,
it's
two
true,
of
but...
them?
No, one of the two. I mean, there's only two new movies, and Rainbow Connection and this are the only two songs that are brought back, you know?
Yes, it's true, but you never hear covers of this, for example, whereas I think it is a song
that's because it only has one verse.
It's not necessarily specific.
I know, I was going to say, I think that's why.
Maybe.
It's just, you'd be done with it in 2 seconds.
Right.
Well, I like the theme of it, of just, when you're such good friends with somebody that you can just pick up right from where you left off, and, it's not starting over, it's just going on, now you're here and there's no need remembering when. I think it's one of the kinds of things that has gotten more poignant to me as I've gotten older and sort of had more of these experiences of knowing people and departing and, coming back together and having these experiences. So I think the song still remains underrated.
I could see Uncle Deadly doing a spoken word rendition of this.
Sure. Why
Imagine
not?
it.
Yeah.
Are you imagining it?
I am.
Oh, good. It's impactful. Are we supposed to just ignore the fact? I know this is just a trial run and like shows can evolve and change, but this is the finale of this trial run of this show. And where do we suppose it appears in the actual finale that we see of the show later? Because it's not the closing number.
Right. Well, I see the later version has more dogs and bears and chickens and things.
And things. That's true.
So,
that's true. So they had to change.
They had
the
to
show.
change it.
Yeah.
Something's not right. We'll find out next week. Something's not working.
Right. The idea of what Manhattan Melodies is very nebulous.
Right.
They never get very specific with
Right.
it.
Well,
it really just makes it sound like a review.
Yeah.
Like it's just...
Yes.
And he says variety show, our senior variety something or another. So maybe it has no plot at all, and it's just a bunch of songs he wrote.
Right. I think it's just one of these like 1920s style like musical reviews on Broadway.
Yeah, that's what I think. Does he say that actually next week about the
He does
being a variety show? Yeah, but I was going to say it makes me think of what I've read about the Marx Brothers' first Broadway hit, I'll Say She Is, where there's like a very thin plot, but it's mostly just an excuse to do a bunch of sketches and variety acts on stage.
Right, which is like, I think in the 20s, which is when the Marx Brothers were on Broadway, that was very common, right? That's like, that's No Nanette and all this stuff, right? Like,
that's what people expected.
Yeah. But in the 80s, less so.
Yes.
But that crowd went wild.
That's true. And that's the
did.
thing, is that after the song ends, the remaining 47 seconds of this clip are entirely like rapturous applause for Manhattan Melodies. And then, and I think part of that is that like we, the audience, are so happy to see the Muppets again. Right. So the idea is that we're supposed to be like, yeah, Muppets are back, or something.
Yeah.
But so the crowd goes crazy. They're clapping. Muppets come back out for another bow. And then the crowd just keeps cheering. And Gonzo has to peek out through the curtain to make sure that what they hear is really happening.
Yeah, that is really for
which
them.
I love that shot of Gonzo peeking out through the curtain, by the way.
Yes.
It's such a nice touch.
And they're all calling out Kermit by name. And so it makes you wonder, what is his reputation on campus? Like, does everyone here already know Kermit?
Kermit, I mean, he definitely seems like that type of guy. Like the type of person everyone knows. And like when he's not around, people say, boy, that Kermit, what a nice guy. Right?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I actually have something related to that I will get to next week.
Okay. But yeah, so the crowd is chanting Kermit, Kermit, which again feels like the filmmakers just want us to be so hyped about Muppets in a new movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some of those audience members look like they just found out that Oprah's giving them.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Oh, and actually, we should talk about a few of the audience members, right?
Let's talk about all the
Let's
audience.
identify every single one of them by name. No, but as Kermit faces the audience, you can see Steve Whitmire pretty clearly, 3 rows back.
Oh, yeah.
And Marty Robinson is behind him. And then, according to Muppet Wiki, also in the crowd is Jim Krupa, Karen Prell, David Rudman, and Steve Whitmire's wife, Melissa Whitmire, who I think is sitting next to him. But
that would make sense.
I can't really pick out those other 3.
Right.
Like, I don't know what David Rudman looked like in 1983 or 84.
I don't know what Jim Krupa looks like ever.
Yeah, I had to look up a picture of him, but they're in there somewhere, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, we should see if we can get everyone to identify everyone that they knew in that audience.
Right. So anyways, the crowd's chanting Kermit, Kermit. Kermit comes out and says, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I really don't know what to say. And then he gets cut off. So we really don't know if he's going to say any more or if he just really doesn't know what to say.
Will he ever figure out what to say?
I like how we do this bit all the time. Like
it's fun.
It is. I agree. But yeah.
What if he doesn't even say? What are some other things he might say?
I don't even know what to sandwich this between.
I
don't know what to sew.
I really don't know what to staple these papers with.
Good call.
So this bit could go on all night. I don't know that it can progress though. So that brings us down to the end of these minutes. Any final thoughts on these minutes before we close? Staci, I'll start with you.
Just that it's such a wonderful way to start the show. A black, theater, a spotlight, a lovable character, and then the tempo changes and everyone's together and the energy is really fun. I think it just really highlights what's to come in the show. It really sets the tone.
Yeah, awesome. Ryan, anything else?
Yes, I have an observation and some information.
Please.
We get a glimpse of the set, like the whole set on the stage, and there are these sort of two-dimensional versions of the New York City skyline. We can sort of see that one of them looks like the Empire State Building and one looks like the Chrysler Building. And then off to the side, there are these signs on the stage that say Broadway, Times Square, and Majestic Theater. And there is actually a Majestic Theater in Manhattan's Theater District. It's on 44th Street, and around the time of this movie, it was hosting the original production of 42nd Street, not to be confused with the street, 42nd Street.
The musical featuring Jerry Orbach.
Yes, and currently it is hosting the Phantom of the Opera, which has been there since 1988 and has run for over 13,000 performances. I'm sure, Kermit could only dream of such a run for Manhattan Melodies.
Manhattan Melodies has actually been running since 1984. So.
Oh, nice. So yeah.
It's in its 36th hit year.
So it has the record.
There's also a Broadway theater. I don't know if it was called that at the time of this film, but there is also the
That's
Broadway
true. Is there a
theater.
Times Square theater? There probably is. That sounds like the name of an
Palace
off-Broadway theater,
see.
maybe, like a smaller theater. But, and also, according to Muppet Wiki, the storybook adaptation of this movie includes an image of Muppets popping out from behind those skyline sets. So there was probably more of this musical number that was filmed that got cut.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And then also, like every Muppet movie and every movie, this screenplay went through several drafts. And I have the March 7th, 1983 draft labeled as the second draft by Frank Oz. And it has a little bit more in this sequence also. There's some chatter.
Before you say it, let me just say what a joy it is to hear a new screenplay date come out of your mouth.
Yeah. It's the March 7th, 1983 draft. Second draft by Frank Oz. There's some chatter among the Muppets before they go on stage, in which we learn that Camilla is a little groggy because she's been staying up to study for her Latin finals.
That's pretty funny.
That is a great joke. I think, we just jump right into the musical number, which is a good idea, but that was a good joke. Also, Statler and Waldorf are in the audience in that scene as written. Waldorf comes in right during this final number. Statler tells him he's late. Waldorf says, "Have they finished the number yet?" And when Statler says, "Not yet," he says, "Then I'm early."
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Pretty typical Statler and Waldorf joke. There's a bit. Oh, so when Gonzo sticks his head out between the curtains, Scooter tells him that that's unprofessional, and Gonzo says, "They couldn't see who it was. All they could see was my nose." That's a good joke. They probably could have left that in. But I think with all this stuff, like if you read interviews and hear DVD commentaries and stuff with Frank Oz, he's very into just like getting right to the important stuff. So I think all this stuff just ended up cut for that reason. Like, so let's just get to the musical number and get him to New York as quickly as possible.
Right.
So that's all I got.
All right.
I have a theater update since you asked a question. It was a Times Square theater. It was active from 1920 to 1934, and before that, it was the Broadway theater.
What?
But not the same one. I think it's a different. It was called the Broadway theater, and actually, since then, it's just been kind of in disrepair, and there were so many projects that almost redeveloped the space, including a 4D theater they were going to do called Broadway Sensation. But it
I've
never
heard about
happened.
this.
Did you hear about that? It seems like the most recent update was that it was going to be sadly turned in 2018 to retail space. But it was just sitting there for decades and decades.
Huh.
Wow.
Wow.
Practically 100 years. You know,
Right.
80 years.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow. Well, thank you for that tidbit, Staci. But also at the end of episodes, we like to ask our guests, as you said at the start, you talked about your history with this movie, but where would you rank it among the Muppet movies? I have a good guess where I think you might rank it, but
Yeah, I don't know how to rank it anywhere but number one
Sure.
for me. Because, I mean, so much of that has to do with, I think, nostalgia and, you know, the initial experience you had and where you were in life when you saw the movies. So, yeah, this one's number one to me. It has everything I'm looking for in a Muppet production.
awesome. And you will be back with us next week to talk about a
Yeah.
little bit more of what it has to offer.
Yay.
That's it for today. Listeners, in the meantime, check out toughpigs.com on the internet, Facebook, Twitter. We're all over the place. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Roe as well. Our theme music is by today's guest, Staci Rosen, and our logo was designed by Morgan Davy. And listeners, if you're so inclined, give us that positive review wherever you listen to your podcasts and tell all your friends to listen to Moving Right Along. We'll be back here next week with another episode. Goodbye!
Bye.
Kermit, Kermit, Kermit.